Now, there are many themes which run through this book, but the one that stood out for me was the importance of being able to adapt when faced with adversity. Some of us adapt grudgingly. Some adapt with fear. And some of us adapt with blazing ambition. The Count adapts with quiet grace. In his own words, he says there is a difference between being reconciled to one's circumstances and being resigned to them. Once in a while, there comes along a book that lingers in your mind long after you have read it. A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles was one such book for me. Years after I read it, a sentence from the book, a stray phrase, a scene from the story would wander into my head. It is the kind of book that provides a comforting anchor whenever life feels chaotic, or it feels unfair, or it feels as if things can never get better. This book is set in Russia. It begins in the year 1922. It covers a span of over 30 years in the life of the book's main character, Count Alexander Rostov, an aristocrat. It begins with his trial. He is being tried for writing a poem which is supposedly a call for action against the communist government. Now, for this perceived disloyalty, he is sentenced to life imprisonment in the Hotel Metropole. He is told that while his life is being spared, on no account can he set foot outside the walls of the hotel, and he is relegated to a small room in the hotel's attic. Over the next 3 decades, the Count questions what he thought he knew. He forges new friendships, and he witnesses the passing of an era and a way of life. Now, there are many themes which run through this book, but the one that stood out for me was the importance of being able to adapt when faced with adversity. Some of us adapt grudgingly. Some adapt with fear. And some of us adapt with blazing ambition. The Count adapts with quiet grace. In his own words, he says there is a difference between being reconciled to one's circumstances and being resigned to them. Shortly after his imprisonment in the hotel, the Count meets a little girl called Nina, who offers him the gift of her friendship. Now, her companionship reawakens the Count's sense of curiosity and wonder. She opens his eyes to the many stories that the hotel contains. And this is a child who is not just content to view life from the upper decks. She goes below, beyond, around, and about. Together, she and the Count explore the hotel, and they have serious discussions on many topics, ranging from princesses to the logic of etiquette and manners. Now, when Nina finally stops coming to the hotel, she gives the Count a farewell gift, a pass key to the hotel. The key is symbolic, not just because it symbolizes the many worlds that the hotel holds, but also because it symbolizes the many possibilities within himself that the Count will soon unlock. In the ebb and flow of the Count's life, there are also many dark phases. In fact, there comes a time when he feels so depressed to be imprisoned in this one building that he contemplates suicide. Now, how does he break out of this dark cycle? He does so in the most practical and utilitarian of ways. He finds himself a job. It so happens that the hotel's restaurant is struggling with a lack of skilled waiters. The Count volunteers for this job, and he applies himself to learning the skills and art of being a waiter. So particular is he that his uniform should be spick and span that he actually seeks out the hotel's seamstress and asks her to teach him the art of mending so that there's never a loose button or a frayed cuff on his uniform. Now, through all these occurrences, we see flashes of the Count's wit and humor. He remarks on the growing number of political meetings and assemblies in the hotel. In a single week, there might be committees, caucuses, colloquiums, congresses, and conventions, all clamoring about the world's oldest problems in its newest nomenclature. A turning point in the Count's life comes many years later. To be precise, in the year 1938, over 15 years after his imprisonment in the hotel. Nina, who is now much older, a young woman, seeks him out and entrusts the care of her little daughter Sophia to him. Both of them think this arrangement is just for a few weeks, but that's not how it turns out. Nina never returns, and the Count ends up caring for this little girl as if she was his own daughter. Of course, this disrupts his entire routine and life, but he takes heart when he remembers his father's words. A man should attend closely to life, but not too closely to the clock. It is this girl, and her growing into a young lady and a gifted pianist. It is this that pushes the Count to finally plan an escape for Sophia's sake. He encourages her to venture beyond what she knows, spread her wings, and go out there, even if it means going into an uncertain future. A Gentleman in Moscow does what really good books do. It gives you a fresh sense of perspective, and it infuses wonder and purpose into even the smallest everyday actions. Throughout the book, the history of Russia, a nation in the midst of transformation, keeps unfurling. And in tandem, within the four walls of the hotel metropole, the Count's life also unfolds. One is larger than life, historic in its scale and scope. The other is a tale of everyday occurrences, little victories, adapting to life's twists and turns, and through it all, keeping the human spirit alive. Thank you.